this is me, phone number, cell phone. I just wanted to go over some of the P&L. Then I want to show you the solds. I want to show you the association. I want to show you the solds. I want to show you the ratios I was talking about, give you a quick rundown, and then we need some additional information. If you look at all the line items that were here on 2021, the biggest one that jumps out to me is rent. I don't see rent anywhere on here. I see automobile, bank, computer, insurance, meals, license, repairs, taxes. I don't see anything that says rent. Now, I know you own the building. Rent was here at $16,000, so where is it over here? And building repairs, I don't see it over here. So there's just different things. There's a lot more line items, a lot more details. Keep in mind that buyers are going to want to see all these line items that they're going to have if they own the business. And since they don't own the building, for the moment, let's assume you're not selling the building. I'm assuming that you're going to be charging rent. So that's got to be reduced from here. I don't know what your dollar amount's going to be. I don't know if $16,000 annually is a fair market value or the amount that you're going to actually want from someone. Because if you're asking for 25 or 30 or 40,000, then this number gets reduced once you increase rent, as an example. So then you're really earning 75. And if it was 40 from here, then it's you got to do the math. But this is only 6 months, and I get that. So we would double that. So 1 year you had 90 with all these expenses, and then we double the 63, which is about 126. Is that because sales increased? I don't know. I mean, we got to analyze it. You were at 400 over here. You're going to be at almost 500 over here. So yeah, sales look like they did jump up. But is it because also we're not showing all the expenses that the profit looks more healthy? I wanted to share with you what I do every day, and this will help a little bit so that you understand when we were talking about valuations and what other people were thinking, and that's all well and good. We work for the owners. I'm what they call a listing agent. I work for owners. So I understand that you guys put a lot of years in. I'm also a business owner. So when we do sell, we want to get top dollar, and I'm here to help you do that. I'm here to do it as quick as you need it to get done. BBF stands for Business Brokers of Florida. It's the largest association of business brokers in the country, happens to be here in Florida. And I happen to be ranked, my team and I happen to be ranked amongst the top 5%, which is about the top 45 business brokers in Florida as far as production and sales volume. I have a team. I'm spending about $1,000 a week promoting my listings. Again, I'm a listing agent. I'm a seller's agent. This is what I do. I have buyers, and I know how to find buyers for my owners. Now, having said that, let me tell you a little bit about the association. It's 21 years old. There's 2,500 active listings at any given time approximately. We sell gross sales, tax returns, cost of goods, and the assets of businesses that generate the seller's discretionary earnings, which is all of the money sales. From the sales, it's cash, it's personal expenses, it's the non-business expenses, the interest, depreciation, amortization, all the things that the new owner would have discretion, seller's discretionary earnings. We add that number up. If it's 90,000, it's 90,000. If it's 100,000, it's 100,000. And what we do is we find comparables in the sold column that are most like yours. Once we thoroughly understand what your business is and we lock in on numbers that we can actually feel comfortable proving, then we know who we should be comparing ourselves to and how they fared when they tried to do what we're about to do. What those willing buyers and those willing sellers were willing to transact at without compulsion. If you Google the definition of fair market value, I believe it'll say something to the effect of willing buyer, willing seller acting at arm's length without compulsion. In other words, no one's being, there's no gun to anyone's head. Everyone's willing to transact at a fair price with full disclosure, arm's length. No one has anything over anybody. It's just the open market, and that's fair market value. So that's what I'm going to show you right now, what others like yourself, buyers and sellers, agreed to was the fair price for the dollar of profit that they were getting. I'm not going to narrow it down by county, although I'm showing to you all 67 counties. I can do that. I'm showing you a whole bunch of categories. I'm going to also show you subcategories in a moment. Dates that the businesses were sold. This is 21-year database. So realistically, we should get rid of the older solds because the economy's changed. Technology's changed, equipment has changed, where things are bought, how they're bought, types of clothing and materials and manufacturing, possibly the processes have changed. The prices, I'm not going to plug that in because that's what we're looking for. Earnings, discretionary earnings, I'm not going to type that in because I'm going to do it manually. Gross sales. Now this is sources of data. Tax returns is your best. If we can prove our profits on the tax returns, that's more of an A-rated listing. By the P&L with add backs is a little bit less rated. Annualized, that's going to be your 2022. We're speculating what the rest of the year might look like. Owner to prove, owner estimate, pro forma is a projection, part of the year, non-operating, and then just the assets when we have a business situation where it's maybe not in business. So I'm going to say all sources of data. So having said that, let me pick the category, and I really need you to identify for me what category we are wanting to compare ourselves to, because there is no website. I have a whole bunch of information, but I need to hear from you what we're currently doing. I understand it's furniture. Is there a percentage of refurnishing, repair, retail? I need to understand the ratios of the profit. For example, I'm going to just say $100,000 just for this particular scenario. And once I have real numbers and we adjust for all the add backs and we have all the expenses that are, maybe should be documented once someone's paying rent and so forth. But for right now, I'm just going to take the entire furniture industry. So let me just pull up all furniture and nothing else. I'm not going to put any other criteria, all sources of data. I could do with comments, but that's not going to help me right now. It's just going to make it a longer scenario. There are 52 solds that the association for 21 years, 900 plus teams have succeeded at. From stores, and I know you're not a store, unfinished furniture, retail, patio, lawn, things like that. So what I do is I come over here and I go to the earnings, because I can't compare your business to somebody that's making 1.3 million. These are, if we were comparing it to horsepower of a car, these are your Teslas, okay? Your very, very fast, powerful, expensive cars. These are going to sell for a higher dollar, but the ratio of earnings to sold price is what we're going to be looking for. And then I want to find the group, which is going to be this group right here. Let's call it 78,000 to 143,000 in profit, but I have to sort it. And you're going to watch, the earnings column is going to jump over when I do it, but you'll see the assets. This is why we need the furniture, fixtures, and equipment list. We need to have the P&L statement, which you gave me. I just need to have you sign off that it's correct. And then we need to agree, what we're going to advertise in the way of a profit, because I want to sort it. So I'm sorted, 52 of them. I'm going to just show you, for example, the entire industry is selling on average the sold price versus $1 of seller's discretionary earnings. So what does that mean? On $100,000 in profit, multiply by the average of 1.76. So the average sales price, fair market value, if you will, would be $176,000. If you were making $200,000, you would double that. That's what this is telling me. However, I need to go in here and remove listings that are not similar to yours to find and identify the ones that are most similar. But I'm just showing you how it works. So when another professional that has never sold a business tells my client that possibly $100,000 worth of profit, and we need to get to that number, but I'm just using that as a lesson just to go through this class right now, the class of furniture. He tells $100,000 is worth $400,000. Well, that doesn't equate with reality, because the average of the group, and I'm going to start whittling away at the high ones and the low ones, and I'm going to show you what the numbers actually come out to. Here, just for example, if you go by them one by one, this probably has real estate included, and it took 455 days, 3 years earnings, 1 year's earnings, but these are also making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. So what I do is I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to get to some of the furniture related. Now I know it's not exactly the subcategory. It may or may not matter, and I'm going to prove that in just a moment. When I did my search, I went all the way down to 143. So let me just continue, and I'm going to show you when we get rid of the bigger ones. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the earnings. This is the seller's discretionary profits. Your 2022 doesn't have 150. I'm going to go down to 143. So here we have all the little ones all the way up to 143. I'm going to exclude these. Watch what happens to this 176. It becomes 151. 152 if you want to round it up. 15% on average is rent. On your 22 numbers, we don't have rent. 80% in the way of a down payment, meaning the buyers put down 80% and 20% was held by seller financing. Depends on how profitable your tax returns are. If you're showing a lot of profit, Possibly they can get a loan. Most small businesses don't show their profit, or their tax returns don't show their profit. Here, this was cash, 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 cash. This was 50% down, 13% down, 74% down. And the average is 80%. Days on market is 234. So that would give you a rough idea. Now, I was talking about 1.5%, I think, before, which means if your SDE, meaning if we come back to this, if this is an actual number, and we can go through all these to see if there were any personal expenses or maybe there was some cash or anything. But if I just round this up to 100 grand, just for easy math, so I don't have to sit with a calculator right now. If I took that 100 grand and I said, okay, this is furniture times 1.5, what would we expect as an average? These are averages of the entire furniture retail. It would be worth $150,000. We would expect to see 15% in rent, 80% down payment, and 234 days on the market. Now, let me continue and get rid of the smaller ones. The first thing is we need to lock in on your numbers. We need to really go through line by line, make sure the lines that are in your 2021, if they existed in 2022, carry over, and the P&L should look very similar. But again, it should match up to your checking account or whatever you paid in cash. The numbers should match because the buyers and the buyers' accounts are going to go through those numbers. Here are the 14, again, not by subcategory, but by the entire overall furniture industry. Here are the averages. I went from 78 in earnings to 143, not knowing what the average is. The average of this group was 108,000, which sounds, leaning more towards the 2022 numbers, but I don't know that those numbers are correct. This is the number 149.8, which is 1.5 times. So if we're able to prove the last 12 months for one owner is $100,000 at the end of the day, 400,000 or 500,000 comes in, 100,000 goes in your pocket, however it got there, benefits, personal expenses, interest, write-offs, deductions, amortization, cash, salary, any of that. Multiply it by 1.5 and that would give you the average. Businesses that are earning in this range, a job, if you will, that is earning in this range, somebody would expect to pay on average, based on the historics, 1.5 times. So it's $150,000. 12% rent, 79% down payment, 231 days on the market. That's the average. Some will be faster, some will be slower, based on whatever it is that you decide to do in the way of a down payment. It's almost 8 months on the market. Some are longer. Here, this guy was over a year. This was a half a year. This was only 3 months. This was 7 months. 3 months, 3 months. So depending on how favorable the business is, where it's located, if it's a good lease, if it's believable numbers, condition of the equipment, how agreeable the owner is, if we're offering an attractive down payment, are we offering good terms for seller financing? These are all things that I can help you with. This is what I would look at until you help me narrow down, what category, or maybe you've added other things on that, I need to know about. So that's pretty much where we're at. I just wanted to get started and share something with you. Based on just an overview, I'm seeing about 1.5 times earnings. First thing is we have to first identify what that is and then go from there. I hope this helped, and you can see all the different categories. Help me identify which ones you think you're most like. I will do a more exact version of this with you. You may be in that range. All right, that's it. Give me a call if you have any questions. Happy to talk to you anytime. Great to hear from you. 954-562-2019. Thank you. Bye-bye.